trim it, I just like to go through it and take off the smaller buds and separate them and stuff, so they don't all be on the same branch. Because like I said, these branches hold moisture, and even if this bud do like get rid of this moisture, if it's still connected to that, the moisture in here is going to flow through that bud, and then it's going to evaporate, because this is too woody for it to just get out of there, you know what I mean? So it's gonna travel through the bud where it's real loose and shit, and it'll go through the bud to get rid of the moisture and shit. So I just take off a lot of that stem. Like I said, at one time I used to leave a lot of that shit on and thinking that it was helping the plant, but it was hurting the plant more so than anything else, because it was adding moisture to it, you know, instead of getting rid of the moisture, it was adding moisture. Whenever the bud dry out, the stem will replenish it, you know what I mean? And that'll prolong the drying process, and then that's when oxidation and all that other shit starts setting in and start degrading your bud. And to me, it don't really take long for that process to happen, man. I think it could happen in 24 hours, but with me, I thought mine was dry, you know, dry enough to last for 3 days, so I didn't open it up till like on the third day that I put it in, and the hygrometer was like 85, and I was like, oh man, I'm fucked. Then I tried to pour it out the bucket and back into the dry box, but damage was already done, man. So you have to be very careful when it comes to putting these buds into the jars and shit, man. What I was gonna start doing is however many days it takes for this plant to flower, and I don't know why I'm thinking like this, but however many days it takes for it to flower, that's how many days it's gonna take for it to cure. So if your plant take 70 days to get right, then you're gonna have to let it cure for 70 days. You know what I mean? That's just a theory that I was just thinking about recently, man, about how long should I really keep my buds in the cure state. You know what I mean? Because after they cure, there's nothing else you could do, and all you could do is store it, you know, and it'll sit for like maybe 2 to 3 years, you know. But I'm saying, as far as the curing process, when should I stop the curing process? And I was thinking, I was like, well, maybe I should use the time it takes to flower, and whatever, however many days that is, use that as like the template for drying my weed. So it took 70 days to flower. So I'm gonna take 70 days and I'm gonna use that to cure my plant. So I ain't gonna fuck with it for 70 days. You know, and after that, it should be nice and cured, you know what I mean? The humidity level should be at 55 or below, which is cool. As long as it ain't rising back up, you know what I mean? You good. But I've been noticing that if I wait like 8 weeks and then start testing out my buds, I'll have better results, because what I'm finding out, even if the meter do say 55% and it happened like in the first 4 weeks of being in that bucket, it's still other shit that needs to convert or degrade or even like settle, maybe even crystallize. What I was noticing is that after 4 weeks of curing, my buds would be at 55%, but then when I touch them, they still be kind of sticky, you know what I mean? And in the past, I used to think that was a good thing, but now I come to understand that it hasn't finished the process, because when your weed is sticky like that, it's hard to stay lit, it's hard to smoke, you know what I mean? So that resin, you have to let that shit even get to the point where it crystallizes, you know what I mean? When the little bit of moisture leave out of there, it start to crystallize, you know what I mean? And once it do that, now it's ready to be smoked and whatever else, you know what I mean? But that's just my personal experience. After 4 weeks, it still be sticky. And what I noticed with mine is that in the 8th week, that stickiness kind of resides a little bit, you know what I mean? And it's manageable. It's not sticking all on your scissors when you cutting it up and shit. But the only thing is, about time I get to 8 weeks, I'm down to my last like 4 ounces of bud and shit, you know what I mean? Which means that I fucked up the rest of this shit, you know? So this time around, I said I wasn't gonna fuck with it until 70 days is up. And then I started experimenting with it, because from that time on, it could only get better, you know what I'm saying? And I don't have to worry about, man, this shit is, you know, it's good as hell, but I only got like an ounce left and shit, you know what I mean? So to avoid all of that, I'm gonna let it cure for 70 days, 2 months, you know. That last month I was thinking about doing a sabbatical and cleaning my body out, don't touch nothing until my shit is ready, and then I could get a better gauge on the potency, because my body would be cleaned out. You know, it only take 30 days for your body to detox from, you know, the cannabis and shit being in your system. Because if I don't, as soon as it reaches 55%, I'm gonna start fucking with it. You know, that's just me, man. I have the hardest time, man, when it comes to curing this shit, because I be wanting to test it out so bad, man. And by me doing that, I think that I've been doing myself a disservice, because like I said, the weed don't be completely ready. That's just one part, and then you have to let it sit for another 4 weeks to let all that sticky shit just settle in and shit, you know what I mean? I found another seed sack. I'm gonna show you, try to do a close up and show you exactly what I'm talking about. See right there? If I get up on it, it's like a little gray sac right there. And it's a seed in there. So this time around, see, you could almost see it. Like I said, the last time my whole bud seeded up. But now I'm noticing I'm just finding them right there at the base of the bud and shit, man. And those is fresh seeds. And when I germinate them, it's gonna produce some good buds and shit. And from my experience, these kind of seeds is more vigorous too, because once they germinate, they just start growing fast. You know what I mean? Faster than all the other ones that you might buy off the internet. See, I'm about to bust that sack. Yup. One seed. I'm sure it's going to be a few more inside the buds, but so far it's just the one seed, because the last time I could see them in the bud, you know, I was like, oh shit, that's a seed, that's a seed, that's a seed. Man, there's a lot of seeds in there, you know? But this time it's just in that sack right there, meaning that it's a good seed. And I got 1, 2, 6 of them so far. And if you want to try them out, give me $10, I'll send you one, because that's how much they charge me on the web. Like $10 a seed. Or something, if you buying them bulk and shit, if you buying them bulk, they'll cut you a deal. But if you just buying the little 5 seed packs, 10 seed packs, and you notice that with 10 seeds, it's gonna be like $100 or close to it, and with the 5 seed pack, it's gonna be like $50 or close to it, you know. So that's $10 a seed. But here, you see where the seeds is coming from. You done seen my growing style. You know they're organic, 100% organic. So man, you can't beat that. I'm gonna mark them, put them in their own container, mark them, and when it's time for me to do some more seeds, I might do those. Because I want to try out a couple of more strains that I got, some very interesting strains. So I just want to go through a few of those, and then probably next year I'll get back to them seeds and shit. Or when I start my outdoor project next year, I'll use those seeds and get them started maybe sometime in April. So about time May come, or the middle of May, I could put them out in the field and shit, you know what I mean? Or I might even start them in March, so I could have at least 8 to 12 weeks on them and get them up about like to this, and get them nice and sturdy. And then when I put them outside, they'll just take, because they'll be mature. I don't like putting little tiny plants out there because what's happening is they taking a long time to mature and shit. You know what I'm saying? Ooh. By the looks of it, it looked like I might got about 8 ounces and shit. Because I know this is gonna weigh up. Switch out. Get the glasses after this. Size. So about time I go through all this and get out the trash. That's in the big leaves. They call it trash. And get it off the trashy leaves. Then you have the little sugar leaves. And like I said, you could just clip those. And a lot of them gonna have frost on it. So you don't really have to worry about getting rid of them because of the frost. If it got frost on it, it's safe. Yeah, so that's some shit that I just thought of. Because like I said, you're constantly trying to think of ways to improve, you know what I mean, with this. Because you want the best product possible. So when it comes to drying and curing, that's no different, man. What's the best way? How much time should I do this shit? You know, what's the right amount of time? So I'm just trying to, you know, use what I know, you know what I mean, to get that answer. You know, and being that drying is already like an 8-week process, 60 days. 30 days is 30 days in a month, you know what I mean? And flowering is the same thing, you know what I mean? It's like 8 to 9 weeks and shit, you know what I mean? For you to finish out your plant. So why can't I take that mathematics and apply it to the cure since it works so well with the flower? You see? Who's to say that it won't work? You know what I'm saying? But anyway, family, these is the last of the branches that I need to trim up. And this video will be over with, because I really need to go into overdrive. And I'm not going to be able to do that with the video on, because I'm going to always have something to say or whatever. And it's going to take away from my time. But we've been here long enough for you to understand, you know, what it's like to trim, you know, cannabis plants. This video is probably about 3 hours long, and every step of the way I've been talking about trimming, how to trim, different ways of trimming, preferences, and everything else, you know what I'm saying? And if I don't finish the day, I'm going to definitely have to get up around 9 o'clock in the morning, or at 8, come down, just start chopping, boom, boom. 8 hours, 4 hours of plant, take me to 4 o'clock in the evening, and then I could do these, and probably Saturday I'll be done, because I'm gonna do another one of these today, and it's gonna be quicker than the one I just did. Just like now, I thought that stem was a stem to the leaf, and it wasn't. And it cut the bud right off. So that being, I have to finish out this video and just get to work where I could just concentrate on this. Plus, like I said, people don't like this part, so it's hard to recruit people to come help you, because they just ain't into details. You have to make sure that that's the right stem that you're cutting, and they'll be cutting off half the bud and fucking the shit up. So man, in the 15 years I've been doing this, I've never had any help and shit, man. And I help other people. But me personally, I never had someone come over here and say, yo man, you want me to help you out? Even my man who been with me from the beginning and shit, man. Every time last year he was like, yo man, I think I'm gonna come help you. So when time came, I called him, yo man, I'm gonna be up here all day. He ain't show up, man. So I just don't really call people when it come to trimming. And if they don't have no experience, I can't use them anyway, Because just by me showing them how to do it is gonna take up half the time I need to get this shit done. Like I said, this is the end of a growing cycle for me. It started last year of July of 2020. And usually I get 3 grows out of that cycle. And with this particular one, this was the last one of the year. As soon as this is all done, I'll be using this room again to bring down G1 for the 2021-22 season and get that up and going. This time around, I had problems getting my seeds germinated. I started off with 6 and ended up with 4 of them. Cause sometimes seeds, man, if the season ain't right, they just not gonna germinate, man. And I have had that problem happen to me many a times, to the point where I had to get clones so I didn't miss my opportunity to grow, man, because this shit could get consuming, man. And one year, none of my seeds came up, man. I ordered some raspberry diesel and some blueberry kush. And man, I couldn't get those seeds to germinate for nothing, man. And then I get them up, they wouldn't stay alive. So I was like, what the fuck is going on? So that particular time I had to go to my man and get some clones. And I used the clones for that grow. And when I tried to, my next grow, I would have better success and shit. another thing about doing this. Always be ready to adjust and change, man. Always, man, because it's not good to stay set in your ways, especially when you don't understand something. When you finally do, you're gonna have to change anyway. So always be prepared to switch up shit. You know what I mean? Because it's only gonna be for the better. The same way I used to be a wet trimmer, and I was having so much problems and shit that I had to give it up, man, and do it a whole different way. But before I did it, I did some research, and I found out some answers and shit like that to some of the questions I had, and based on that, I didn't have no problem with the change, you know, because it was only for the better. And it's good to use a glove too, because your hands get sticky from just holding the branch and shit. Because so far I haven't even been wrapping my hands around my buds or molesting them, as my man would say. And my hands are still sticky as hell, man. Basically, that's what the bud looked like. Shaped it up and stuff. All it have to do is tighten up now. We're gonna be smoking some chunky. Like I said, with this particular pineapple strain, the haze, I done had this strain for about 4 years now. But like I said, I was still tweaking my style, because I still was making a lot of mistakes, and a lot of it was coming when I had that haze there. So I could never really exploit the full potential of the plant, because I kept making mistakes and shit. You know what I mean? Every year something would go wrong with what I was doing, and it would affect the outcome, you know? So, like I said, I did a lot of adjustments and shit, and changes to the way I do things, especially when it comes to the fertilizers and stuff, you know. I created my own program, and that solved that. And the last thing I tweaked was the dirt, because I used to run my dirt hot, and I said I wasn't gonna do that no more, because every time I checked my runoff, it was always like real high, you know what I mean? And it would always affect my plants, because my plants be drooping or whatever, and I'm like, what the fuck, I'm feeding them, blah, blah, blah. So when it come to fleshing, because I incorporate that in you know, my schedule, I flesh it and check the runoff, and sometimes it don't even read on the meter. That's when I know I'm gonna have to do a major flesh of at least 20 gallons, 20 to 25 gallon per plant. And that's what happened, man. I had to flesh about maybe 10 gallons of water to get a reading. Just to get it to read, then I had to, you know, put about 15 more gallons of water just to get it down to where appropriate levels. And for me, that was like 900 ppms. You know, so after that, I said, man, I'm not putting no more shit in my soil. You know what I mean? Because sometimes soil is already rich, you know what I mean, and full of shit. So you really don't have to put too much shit in soil, especially if it's a premium mix, like the living soils and shit. You don't have to add nothing in that. You see what I mean? But I don't use living soil. I mix my own soil. I make my own compost mix called the Smart Soil Compost Tea Mix. And I've been perfecting that. And I only use that, you know what I mean? So all the results I get is from, you know, all the stuff that I be making on my own, you know what I mean? Like my man, he first time growing, I was like, well, what you using? He was like, I'm using Sensei this, number one, whatever and shit, and then when it's bloom, I'll use the Sensei that, you know. And I used to be like that at one time, man. And I have always heard people say, man, you could just get your plant compost tea. You don't really need to give them no nutrients and shit, man. And they have better results. And I just couldn't wrap my mind around it. I was like, man, your plant need nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium. What is they talking about, you know? And then as I started to learn more and more about microbes and shit, and what they do and shit, then that's when I started understanding what they were saying about the compost tea, because the compost is the base that you use to create these microbes, you know what I mean? So if you don't know what's in your tea, you don't know what it's comprised of, you just gonna say it's compost tea. I just use compost tea, you know. But if you understand compost teas and shit, you know, and the different variations and shit, now you could really go in depth with the teas and how to make it, what they produce and shit like that. And now you could make the type of teas that you need that's gonna benefit your plant. You see what I mean? There's really a difference, man. Because in the beginning, I used to make my compost and it used to come out so strong, man, that I would have to dilute it, man. And then I'm discarding shit, you know, I'm wasting shit, you know what I mean? All the shit I used to make it, now I'm throwing half of it away, man. And I got tired of that to the point where I stopped even using compost teas. And I started using shit like Recharge. Now they said do the same shit as compost, And as I started doing more and more research, that's when my eyes started to open. I'm like, oh, the reason the recharge do the same shit as the compost tea, because it got these microbes in it. You see what I mean? So now I understand that the microbes comes that microbes is produced in the compost tea. You see, so you start putting shit together. I'm like, oh, okay, so compost tea must have the same, you know, content in it as this recharge. And sure enough, you know, the more I researched, the more I started narrowing that shit down to microbes. And I'm like, okay, compost tea has microbes, recharge have microbes. But now, the difference after you understand it is that you could create your own microbes. You see what I mean? With recharge only gonna have a certain set of microbes that they're gonna use in their product. When with compost tea, you could put together your own mixture that'll produce the type of microbes that you need that'll do the job for the plant. So once I understood that, that's when I was like, okay, now I know how to make my compost teas. You know what I mean? And I changed up my whole style of making my teas. Like I said before, I was adding all my emulsions, my acids and all of that shit, you know, everything and all at once, and my ppms would be too high. And I was discarding shit, you know what I mean? Wasting shit. And like I said, I got so frustrated that I stopped making the shit and started using recharge. But then when I figured out the common denominator between the two, because they always say recharge, use this in place of compost tea, you know, so it had to be, you know, it had to be a reason why they were saying that, you know. And one of the reasons, because they comprised of the same shit, microbes, you know, and molasses and stuff. So like I said, I created my own program called the Nutrient Exploration Program, where I test out all my nukes and shit and compounds or whatever, or amendments. And then I got another part to that program called the microanimation portion of that program, where not only is I'm testing the all the products, you know, to see how strong they are, I'm also testing them for microactivity and shit, you know. And I call that part of the program the microanimation, because I'm trying to see, you know, if there's any activity going on as well. And I had to buy a microscope to do that, you know. And I use the same method I use for my nutrient exploration, but the next step is, after I do that, now I'm testing for microbes. I'm taking samples out of each one of those, and I'm checking for activity to see if it's high microactivities or if it's just barely microactivities. And based on that, that's how I know to use, that's how I know what to use to make my compost tea. Because I want my shit to be real concentrated. So in order for that to happen, I have to know which ingredients have the highest microactivity and shit. And I was able to do that through a microscope. And shout out to Dr. Elaine Ingram, you know, because she is the mother of this shit, you know, and I watched what she was doing And I just took that and just applied it to what I was doing. And now I'm making my own shit. You know what I mean? Matter of fact, I need to make up some because I'm starting a new grow, and I need to make about 3 gallons because of 1 gallon lasts me the whole grow. And then the next grow I have, you know, another gallon, but it has been broke down a little bit more than the first one. And then by the time I get to the last one, that'll be the strongest one, you know what I mean? Because it'll be all the way broken down, and the microactivity will be like crazy in that shit, you know what I mean? I found another seed sack. I'm busting it. And there it go. See if I can beat that. You can see it. Seed. That's a powerhouse seed right there, man. This way. Since this plant is gone, I don't have to bump into no shit. So yeah, family, I'ma just collect all these seeds. And the next time I grow these out, oh man, it's gonna be incredible. Because I'm gonna probably use those for my outdoor project next year. And I'm gonna probably start those right when I start my last grow for indoors. So about time the weather get right, they'll be of some size. Cause I put some out there this time around. I started the season the beginning of May because I couldn't find any clones. You know, every time I called one of my men, they were saying, nah, it ain't ready. You know, I need to get them ready. So I knew if I germinated some seeds in about 4 weeks, they'd be ready too. So that's what I did. I germinated them, and in 4 weeks, you know, they still seedlings and shit, but I had to get them out, you know, because we only got a short window, you know, up here in New York. And even June is too late, you know, that the plants have to get out there sometime in the middle of May, as soon as the weather break, because we still have like snow and frost and shit like that. And that's why I said I want them to be of some size, so if they do get hit with the frost or whatever, they'll survive it and shit, you know what I mean? But anyway, I put them out there, and even though I'm having good results, it's not with all of the plants. Some of the plants are really, really tall, and then some of them is kind of short and squatty, because they ain't got to, you know, all plants grow different. They don't grow the same way. You know what I mean? They all grow different, so some is tall, some is short. But if I put them out there earlier or let them get a little stronger indoors and put them out, soon as they go out, they'll be like, boom, you know what I mean? They'll start flexing, and you know, I have better results. And I'm saying that based on me putting out that male plant. And I had started that plant in March because I was getting it ready for G3. So I started that around the middle of March. So about time May came, it was about 6 weeks old. And then I flipped the lights over maybe the second week of May. And I was able to find out, you know, what it was because it started balling. So I put it outside on May 24th. And right now that plant is over 6 feet and the stalk on it is like that. That's because it was already mature when I put it out there. So if I make the plants mature, like I'm just growing them in here and just let them get big and just, you know, transport them over there and put them in the ground, they'll do really good. And that's what I'm going to do next year, because, you know, and it's not even a mistake. You just learn as you go. You know what I mean? And I haven't done outdoors since '07. And this is the first time really doing outdoor serious. So, you know, outdoors is different from indoors. You don't have no control over the plant. Nature takes over that. You know what I mean? You have no control over the light and shit like that. So you can't do anything about that. So you just have to let nature take its course and shit. That's one reason I don't go up there every week. I did everything I needed to do for the plant to survive the whole duration. The way I prepare my holes and shit like that. And it's enough shit in my holes to last the whole growth, you know what I mean? And plus the area I'm in is very rich and fertile area. You know, it gets a lot of water and shit, so I don't have to worry about it drying out, because there's always water. Even if the plant has to go down, because it's like a creek nearby, you know what I mean? So I ain't saying like immediately towards it, but you know, coming up to the property, you have to cross a bridge and it's a creek. And maybe about 200 or 300 more feet or yards away, that's where I'm at, you know. But the area is real productive because they didn't try to develop the land over there, you know. And it wasn't like houses sitting on there and full of fill and shit like that. When they tear down the house and put all that bullshit, you know, to fill up the hole. And you dig in your soil deep enough, especially in these residential areas, you will run into shit like that, you know. Even in my backyard, when the wall fell and they had to put it back up, and they had to dig down after they went down so deep, they started pulling up fill and shit. I'm like, man, where the fuck this shit come from? Was it a house back there? No, they just used it to fill in that area and raise it up, because we live on a hill and shit. But over there and where I'm at, it's none of that. And the soil is rich and healthy, man. It's like black soot, you know what I mean? I call it the black soot of the Nile and shit, you know what I mean? Every time you will watch one of those National Geographic stories and they talked about the Nile River, they used to always talk about how the Nile would flood out the area, and then when the water receded, it would leave a rich soot that the farmers would use, you know, for agriculture and shit, you know, and they took care of a whole nation on the bank of the Nile, you know what I mean? Because the Nile runs through Ethiopia, and it's one of the only rivers that go from south to north, and it goes from Ethiopia all the way up to Egypt. So nations was developed on the side of those on the banks of that river. You know what I'm saying? So that's what I would always remember, you know, because they would always be like the Nile, and they'd go and have the soil in their hand and see how black it is and shit like that. And then when I started reading more about Egypt and it turned into Kemet, then I started finding out even more about it, you know what I mean? Agriculture and how they used to farm and stuff like that. And the Nile played a very, very important part in that, you know what I'm saying? But anyway, that's how my soil looked up there. I will probably do this video in parts, because it's probably about 4 hours long. So I just do it in parts and shit, you know, in hour increments or something, so you could see the whole thing. But I just wanted to do this video, especially for this channel, so that you could really see what it takes to grow a cannabis plant, man. From seed to harvest. And like I said, I just started this YouTube channel, so you would have to go to Facebook if you on Facebook and see this grow from the beginning, you know what I mean? To see when it was in the bed stage, how it looked. You could probably see that other plant that I had to take out and shit like that. But basically with this channel, I just want to educate you, so you're going to have to follow me, you know, through some of these grows and shit in order to really learn how I, you know, do things and shit. And if you agree with it, then you could start using it, you know, for your own personal use, you know what I mean? I was a first-time grower, you know what I mean? And I know what I had to go through as a first-time grower, you know? So that's why I try to be as thorough as possible when I'm explaining this. I'm not explaining it from a scientific level, of course, you know, because I don't have no degrees in this shit, you know what I mean? This is from experience, you know what I mean? And that's what make it even more organic, because I learned how to do this from scratch, you know what I'm saying? And I've been organic from the very beginning. That's another reason I said I was gonna just do the one plant, because you see how I just got silent, man, because sometimes you just have to be focused and make sure you're cutting the right leaves and shit. I'm glad I got my music going to make up for some of that, or it'll just be one boring time, you know what I mean? You know what? For these next buds, yeah. Yeah. So these last couple of buds, so you could really see what I'm doing, and I should have did it like that from the beginning instead of sitting around and letting you see it, so you can see exactly what I'm doing. Now, if I do have to do some tomorrow, I'll make another video. And this one, I'll just focus on me just cutting the bud and shit, you know. Because if I go silent, at least you can see why, you know what I mean? Like I said, you got the fan leaves here. And you will know them because they have the longest stem on them. And just cut those right off. Some of them you can get to. Some of them you have to go up in the bud to get to it. Depending on your experience at doing this. And then after that, the sugar leaves, like I said, have frost on them, so you're not really worried about those. And all you're doing from here, you just shaping the bud, and you get the bud shaped up, because when it starts to cure, it's gonna tighten up. The bud gonna tighten up. And when you shape it up, it'll tighten up to the shape that you make for it, you know? Like I said, make sure you have enough trimmers to get the job done, because these shits get sticky. And once they get all that resin on them, on the blade, it dulls the blade out and it's hard to even cut through it and shit. So every now and then you have to switch it out, put this in the alcohol and shit like that. So like I said, you let the plant die. You know when the plant is done, because these leaves will look like this. They'll just be wilted. See how it's just dead, wilted, dead. So that means all the energy done dissipated in the plant. And now you could trim it safely without it trying to repair itself. And once you get all of that, you just shaping up the bud. Anything that's sticking up. You could like take it down. If it's already curled up around the bud, you could leave it. If it got frost on it, by the time you finish, the bud should look like that. Like I said, I just take off the lower ones and shit because they attach to this stem. And this stem holds a lot of water. And the water is going to escape through the bud. So as long as the stem is attached to it, the bud is always going to maintain some type of water in it, and that's what you're trying to get rid of. I found another seed. And so far I'm just finding one seed at a time. My buds is not seeded up. It's just like a sack there with some seeds in it. With a seed in it, not some. Uh-oh. Another one. Thought it was one again, but it wasn't. Last one. And even though it was tedious, like I knew it would be, I enjoyed making this video. I enjoy sharing, knowledge with you, especially knowledge about something that I like. You know what I mean? Not only like, but have become good at. So yeah, I could share that knowledge with you. Like I said, I was a first-time grower too, and it was nobody to bounce no ideas off of. So you wind up making the same mistakes over and over until you reach a crossroads and shit. So at least with my channel, I try to show you what I'm doing, and that way I'm educating you, you know what I mean? By me showing you exactly what to do or what I'm doing, I'm educating you. And now you will be like one up on the next man, you know, because you getting right reasoning, they would call it, right information and shit, you know what I mean? Right reasoning. You could take this and apply it to what you already know and see if it'll work out for you. If it do good, if it don't, keep searching. Seek for knowledge. How they say that, I forget that that saying about seeking knowledge. But in some cases you have to seek out the knowledge, man, if you wanna get better at what you do. You have to seek knowledge. And hopefully, you know, you could learn something on this. I'm gonna put up my Cash App because if you find anything on this show of value, then show some love, man, and donate to my Cash App. I do take donations. I am not shy to say that. Because it takes money to do this, man. This shit just don't happen. So if you watch my show and you find any of this information of value, and I'm not talking about just, you know, hearing it, I'm talking about use it and apply it, and it's work out for you, show some love. Got another seed. Will I ever get sponsors? Who knows? Depend on how much traffic I pull in. If I'm able to pull in enough traffic, then I could see myself getting a sponsor because I've been doing this for 15 years. You know, I have no, you know, if you want to promote some shit on you, you know, it have to be organic and shit. You know, I don't fuck with chemicals and shit, you know. So you would have to be organic. That's it, family. Finished the whole plant for you guys. I'm sorry it took so long, but that's how it works, man. You know, this is a tedious process. Each plant could take up to 3 to 4 hours to do when you're manicuring it and shit like that, because now you're getting into details with it. You know what I mean? And you just can't rush through it, you know what I mean? So you have to take your time to get it done and to get it done right. You just went through that whole process with me, and I just did one plan, and you see how long it took. You know what I mean? So don't take this shit for granted. You know what I mean? A lot of people take this for granted because they just used to getting the weed already done and shit, and just having to cut it up and roll it up and smoke it. That's the extent that they ever dealt with weed. You know what I mean? But when you're dealing with the whole process of it, from seed to harvest, and all the things that you have to do to get that end product, then you start to have a little more appreciation for, you know, what you're smoking and shit. You know what I mean? So, yo, family, I'm gonna end this. It's been a pleasure doing this for you guys. Thanks for watching another episode of Master Bruce Chronicles. Again, with your host, the Urban OG, which stands for Organic Growing. No gangster business, family. And I'm out. I'm gonna edit that part out.